Hi everyone, my name is Margaret and I'm a paralegal here at Tsang and Associates. And today I want to share a case that we worked on where we helped a couple who fell in love, got married, and filed for adjustment. However, this couple had a lot of very unique aspects about their case. It wasn't their standard typical relationship. So they really had to go through a lot of hoops to prove that to USCIS. They had to respond to multiple inquiries, attend multiple interviews, and they were even accused of fraud, and there was just investigations and all sorts of things going on. And I want to talk about their journey, some of the different things that we incorporated, and just different series of events that unfolded throughout this process. So once the couple got married, they came into our office and we helped them file for adjustment of status. So we filed the typical stuff, the I-130, the I-485, and then eventually the couple got scheduled to appear for interview. And basically they were both separated. They were asked standard questions about their relationship. And then the applicant had also been on an F1 student visa. So they also asked her about the school that she attended, as well as the details while she was on that student visa. So up to this point, everything was going relatively well. It was just a standard processing. However, shortly after the interview, they got two different notices. And one of them was that they got an I-130 notice of intent to revoke, and they got an I-485 NOID, which is a notice of intent to deny. And at that time, it was a little bit alarming because they were questioning two different big things. So for the I-130 petition, they were questioning the bona fide nature of their relationship. They didn't feel that the couple had provided enough documents. And on the other hand, for the I-485, they were intending to deny on the basis that they didn't believe that she was in a valid status while she was on the F1 visa. So in order to address the bona fide marriage portion, we did have to acknowledge a few factors. So for example, there were some things that are traditionally considered red flags for USCIS. So for this couple, there was about a 20-year age gap. They had entirely different cultural backgrounds. And on top of that, she was a caregiver. So she only stayed with him about 2 days out of the week. So understandably in USCIS, this is just like ringing alarms, from left to right. So what we did is that we prepared an affidavit really talking about their love story, the details as to how they met and how they really developed this relationship. We also collected an employment letter to show that in fact she was a caretaker. So it's not just, an excuse or something false that we're making up, like this is her job. It requires for her to be physically away. However, this is the dynamic that currently works for them. And yes, it may be odd or it may be typical, but it works for them and it does not mean that they have a fake marriage. Another unique aspect about this case was that the son accused them of having a fake marriage. So he had called USCIS and had given this information. So we knew that this was on record and we just wanted to address it. So we essentially were able to get the son to write a letter retracting his statement. And he shared about the circumstances as to how old he was, what was going on at his home when he said all of these things, and what had changed. In reality, it was just a matter of time. Sure, he was suspicious of the motives. Maybe, possibly, he didn't really know her. But 5 years later, he's gotten to know her. They're still a couple. They live together. And he realizes that his dad really loves this woman and vice versa. And something that had changed the son's mind was the fact that throughout the years, his dad had been aging and just having all sorts of different health concerns that required medical attention. And the applicant was really the one who was taking care of him, taking him to the medical appointment. So he really acknowledged, that he was able to see the true love that existed between them. And on top of that, this was a sworn letter that was notarized. So it carried a lot of weight. As if everything else wasn't enough, USCIS also said the following in the notice of intent to deny. It says, USCIS immigration officers investigated the validity of your marriage and have uncovered evidence that the beneficiary never lived with you. So specifically when we responded to that claim, we talked a little bit about how it was a little bit unfair, how they very vaguely talked about this investigation, but they didn't disclose any facts about how they uncovered this evidence, which doesn't give her the opportunity to really address it. However, because we knew essentially that they're questioning whether or not she lives with him or has ever lived with him, we did provide affidavits of neighbors attesting to the fact that they've seen this couple live together. And then we also submitted proof of the fact that she was a caretaker to show why she is not there, 24 hours of the day, every day. So for the notice of intent to deny the I-485, again, they were questioning like whether she fully attended school throughout the whole time. So we did acknowledge, yes, she submitted limited documents, but again, it's been a long time since she attended the school. The school has since then shut down. She literally has tried every way of retrieving any possible document. She has given verbal testimony to USCIS that has always been consistent. So essentially, the lawyer who did attend the I-485 interview did submit a letter just explaining his arguments and talking about the fact that even if she did not fully attend the school during said time, at worst, it would be a status violation, and really emphasizing that regardless of the situation, she essentially still qualifies because she was married to a U.S. citizen. This relationship was not what's considered to be a typical standard relationship. And they did, in fact, have to go through many hoops and trials. They had to go to multiple interviews. They had to respond to not request for evidence, but notice of intent to deny. So there's a lot more pressing deadlines. There was a lot of stress, a lot of uncertainty, but they knew that their relationship was real. We knew their relationship was real. So we both just continued to persist and go through all of the hoops and let USCIS know that we were not going to give up and we were going to continue to fight for their case. If you have any questions or you have a similar case, feel free to reach out. Thank you for watching.